Reclaiming Timeless Ways, back on the air for another episode. Mike?
Down to our final two for the day.
Yeah, we've done some recording. We, of course, as these are getting launched, you're seeing them in couple-week increments in our real time. We've been at it for a little while today.
4 or 5 hours?
Yeah, we have.
Been a good, long, productive process.
All right. We appreciate you joining us. Again, Mike Tracer, Simon Fuller. Our topic for episode number 59 is...
What?
Yeah.
Oh, listening.
Ooh, where?
Listening.
Oh.
I can't hear me. I'm sorry. So listening. So somebody's talking and they string a bunch of sentences together and you're nodding your head and you're drifting.
Yeah.
You're drifting because they're not interesting. Could be. You don't care about what they're talking about. Their sentences aren't really connected in a way that makes sense to you.
Right.
And or there's a series of loose associations that form segues, but you don't see the associations.
Right.
So you can say, you've just said 3 or 4 things, and obviously it's like steps on a path, but I don't get the connection between the steps. Can you go back to the beginning and just connect 2?
Right.
What triggered you to find a connection between I like red and I like that pillar?
Right.
I don't know. You know, maybe they don't know.
But that is such a key component of listening, is asking some of those questions.
Right.
Because, maybe you didn't get enough sleep last night. You can't focus on anything.
That could be, right.
Maybe they're not interesting, or more so, like Mike was saying, the topic is not of interest to you.
Right.
How do you engage yourself in that? That is one of the first ways is, okay, but I found a piece of something. Help me understand that a little further.
Right.
Or if you'll notice, go back over the other 58 shows. I can almost promise you that I'll engage more when Mike gives one of the analogies. I'm a very visual understander.
Yep.
Or visual person. So when I hear something and then it's tied to like even your little step analogy.
You concretize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you give a lot of analogies that helps me then, okay, all right, I got it now. It took me a second. Maybe you threw a few words that, okay. So it's a lot like this. Now I got it. I've got a picture to put in my brain.
So my hearing is imperfect. So sometimes I have to say, can you repeat that? Or can you speak a little louder or a little slower?
Yeah.
Or when you speak really softly, I cannot hear you.
Right.
Right? I can't. I'm not trying to be a pain in the ass. I literally can't hear your words. In your tone, if you don't look at me and speak loudly, I've lost 25% of my hearing.
Right.
I have no idea what you're saying.
Right.
And I can't assemble it.
Right.
Because it could mean 12 different things. So can you explain that? Can you make the connection? Can you speak more slowly? Mm-hmm. Can you enunciate?
Right.
I know it sounded like a pain in the butt, but could you enunciate for me?
Right.
You know, because you're important. Your message is important. I want to understand it, right? Are you tired?
Right.
I'm tired. I'm having a hard time paying attention. Can you say this more briefly?
Right.
Or are you tired? You know? What do you mean? Or, as a matter of fact, I am.
Yeah.
What's the one part of it that matters to you the most? You know? That might help them focus.
Sure.
Or can you explain that in steps?
Right.
What happened first? Oh, I went in to get my car fixed, and then what happened that pissed you off? The mechanic talked in circles, and I was unable to get an estimate. So you were angry. Of course I was angry. Why? Because when that happened in the past, I got ripped off. You don't want to get ripped off again. Exactly.
Right.
Oh, I understand.
Right.
Right. So you're giving them an opportunity to go back and explain the roots of their emotional reactions. Right. I don't understand your terminology. I'm not familiar with that word. So I have to come off my pedestal and not pretend that I'm Webster's dictionary and say, Well, your vocabulary might be better than mine. Can you explain that word to me?
Yeah.
Right? Or your vocabulary is better than mine. Can you explain that word? Can you give me an example so I can grasp it?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people will use the same word to describe itself. That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
Describe fast. Well, fast is fast.
Yeah.
No, you don't define a word with the word, you know? So if you lecture me, it comes across as control, and then I want to escape. And when I want to escape, I start fogging you out,
Right.
right? So it doesn't draw me in, it pushes me away.
Right.
I feel like a prisoner,
Yeah.
in a sense, right? I'm not required to agree with you. Why should I have to agree, right?
In fact, I think some of the best listening comes from
Right,
maybe not disagreements, but can be, or when you throw in some of your thoughts, add your thoughts to it. Now I'm taking part, I'm engaging, and therefore I've gained a little more interest in the topic.
right.
Like you used the terminology a few times today and in other shows when I'm being preached to, you just kind of fog over. Well, preached to is different than a conversation in my mind.
And it's like conversation preached to, and then the worst is preached at.
Right. Right.
Oh, God. That's just, boo.
That's reserved for father-son or mother-daughter relationships only. And even that can be dangerous.
You lose them.
You do.
You know, they're gone. It's like, yeah, my body's here, Dad, but screw you.
Yeah, it's only because I have to be. You're making me listen.
I've left the room.
Listening, dare I say, is one of the most important skills. It's certainly a top three. I'm not going to say the top. I think it could be argued, but top three in any sort of a relationship. In any sort of, and I'm talking career,
Right.
I'm talking spousal, I'm talking friendship. I had a sales trainer who always went, and he kind of talked like this: Simon, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them accordingly. And that came from, you know, the eagerness when I'm talking about something that I'm passionate about. It's easy
Right.
to all of a sudden dominate, maybe not even intentionally, but dominate the conversation. And especially when I'm working with clients, I sell advertising. It is more important to hear their take on what I'm saying, engage with me, and that will not only help me understand where they're coming better, therefore give better odds of success in making the sale, so to speak,
Right.
through serving their needs or wants. And that only is accomplished
So let
through
me ask you a
listening.
question. Let's
Sure.
say you're describing something to me, and I'm getting foggy.
Yep.
And I say to you, I say, could you hold that thought for a minute? That's the
Sure.
first thing, because we otherwise, often all of us, regardless of our age, we lose our train of thought because there are so many intersections of ideas.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So the chalk falls off the blackboard. So you say, please hang on that thought or jot down a couple key words if you need to. And then I say to you, how is this going to affect you if I say this to you? I don't feel like I'm doing a good job of listening right now because I'm tired or I'm distracted or you're giving me a lot of information at once. I want to try to refocus. Can you explain that to me in pieces? If
Sure.
I said that to you, how would you react?
Normally, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
To me, that seemed very appropriate.
Okay, so I'm telling you, it's important for me to listen, but my mind was drawn elsewhere, and
Right.
I want to get refocused because you're important and your message is important.
Right. Right.
Okay.
I know that's to me that's active listening. Anytime both parties are actively engaging in one another, and that's an active engagement. That's you saying, "Hey, Simon, I didn't quite get that. Whatever the reason is, you fill in the blank. I'm tired.
Right.
I lost a little interest. Oh, earlier today I screwed up on a test or a this, and that crept back into my mind. Whatever the reason is, I got lost for a second.
Right.
Can we circle back and refocus.
How often do you find yourself rephrasing with some, so is this what you're saying? You say that to somebody. Let me make sure we're on the same page. When you say that, is this what you mean? And you give it to them in different words.
That's I think, a very strong way to actively listen.
Okay.
That's a very strong skill or tool. Absolutely.
So what do you do to draw people in, to make sure that they're participating when?
It's, in my world, I'm thinking of this maybe a little one-dimensionally at the moment.
Right.
And then we can apply it to other uses. So I'm selling advertising, you're a client. The first thing I do is I've got the sheet of paper of whatever I want to talk about. I want you focused on what I'm saying, not reading.
Right, okay.
It's easy to read ahead.
Sure.
And I'm asking questions along the way, oftentimes. So it's
So you want
today
me
we're gonna
involved.
correct.
I just did it.
Correct.
Right.
Today, hey, I've got something to talk to you about, Mike, today. I'm really excited. Do you have a few minutes for me? I think that's a very important question, number one. Do you have time? Because if and I'm the advertising guy, I'm not always the most popular guy walking through the door.
Sure.
I have a lot of friendships,
Right.
but these are people that have a lot going on, and even in a personal world, we're all busy, right?
Right.
So I think it's important to say, do you have time for this? Yes, I do. Go ahead, Simon. All right, well, we're doing this at the radio station. I think it would be a great fit for you because of, here's my reasons, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, whatever it is. What do you think about that? Do you like that idea? Do you like that concept? I'm asking some questions. I'm trying to keep that engagement. I mean, that's probably the simplistic overview of how I would operate in that sort of a communications
So how do you
system.
approach restating people's needs? My understanding is this is what you need.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In fact, in the advertising world, we do what we call a needs and analysis, and it is the most important tool in our toolbox. And it is, we sit down with clients annually or semi-annually and go through a whole sheet that does just that.
Okay.
I want to serve you better,
Right.
and I can only do that by knowing your wants, needs, goals, what perception you want of your business, what promotions, what events, what you do. I can better serve you with my product if it's meeting your needs or wants.
So how do you go about, this is just an imaginary idea. Somebody sounds like a kid, and they're a highly degreed professional.
Yeah.
How do you broach that subject with them without them getting offended?
Yeah, it's interesting.
If they're using their voice in a presentation.
Yeah, it's I could do that a couple ways.
Hi, I'm an electrical engineer, and we want to help you solve your...
Right, because instantly we have a perception, a voice association.
you're a child.
How often, before the day of social media, websites, and all that, the the announcers on the radio stations, who are these guys or gals, right? And so there'd be a remote broadcast on scene at a local business. And this has been years and years ago. Like I say, there's pictures of us everywhere. Everybody knows what everybody looks like. But how often would you look at somebody that you've heard on the radio, meet them for the first time, see them and say, that's not what I imagine that person looking like?
No.
We do. Our minds will attach, we will create from a voice that we will construct in our minds a physical presence of that individual.
Yeah, we do.
And so what you're saying is you've got somebody that's a highly professional that has a voice that maybe doesn't match the level of expertise we would want. A neurosurgeon, you said in an earlier show. I don't want a neurosurgeon to sound anything other than highly educated and very well spoken.
Very articulate and focused.
Correct.
Right.
Because I don't want that person cutting into me, right?
Yeah.
So that's the question. You would try to take them out of the commercial. I would do that by maybe using them in a clip or a smaller segment of the commercial.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you might have to have the hard conversation with that individual as to why. But I think you could softly say, I am the professional in the marketing world. I'm going to script the commercial.
Right.
I would like an announcer read here, and maybe just have you be a piece of it. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing there is you're doing the right thing, but you're risking also that relationship depending upon how they would interpret what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You have to carefully, going back to the last show, am I speaking clearly?
Right.
You would definitely have to think out how you wanted to deliver that.
So a guy with a gruff voice might sound angry,
Correct.
right?
Or like he's chain smoked for years,
Right, yeah.
and that's not maybe necessarily someone you want doing a health food
Or a
store
guy
ad.
with a relaxed voice might sound like he just had a beer, and he doesn't sound like a surgeon you want to go anywhere near.
Right.
Well, here's how we approach that generally.
Right. It's
Cutting into me, you sound lit.
so you're saying, how do we have those hard conversations?
Right. Right.
I think that goes back to last week's show. It's on us to think about, first off, the value of what we're trying to say, and how do I say it in a way that doesn't offend the individual.
Another one I could picture is a shrink that sounds mechanical
Right,
or cold.
right.
People go, ooh, ooh, and they bristle.
It's absolutely
you know?
true.
That sounds like my damn grandmother, and she was out of her frickin' mind, you know? What'd you do? Bring her back? Right.
You know, and
No!
it's
So you'll have something you wish to resolve. Yeah, but not with you, lady. Right?
yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting question, and it's the beauty of a smaller community where people know people that can be also very terrible at times because the old rumor mills.
Right.
But it also is a sense that, if there's a local merchant and we know this individual and who they are for the most part, we don't put as much into necessarily how they sound as we would in a city where I've never met the person.
Right.
And I'm going to immediately draw.
People are already familiar with their substance.
Right.
So they get a pass.
Right, a
On
little
some
bit.
of their demeanor.
Right.
Right.
Because there's more to it. But if it's
Absolutely.
if it's a big station and a big city, and like you say, some of those examples, they've got the wrong voice, you absolutely want to rethink it.
So in your selling, do you list a bunch of things in advance so that their ego is a little softened up? Say, here's the things we're looking for. We're looking for focus. You want to be open and direct, but not overpowering, and we're looking for tone. We want you to sound sure of yourself and clear, but not overbearing again,
Yeah, oftentimes you bet. That's absolutely a piece of the
So
job.
if somebody's broken in their demeanor,
Yeah.
they look weak, they sound childish.
Right.
They seem too relaxed, they seem angry, or they seem distracted. If you can tell them that in a general sense beforehand,
Right.
now it's not personal.
Exactly. In fact, one of the simplest things we talk about when coaching a radio commercial, so to speak, is when you are going to voice this, you have this script, give a smile because you'll sound a little happier.
Oh, interesting.
Automatically, it's not because you're smiling, it's because the smile is relating to your brain, you're happy. We all have crappy days, Mike. And I might walk in there, I've got one client, I'm chuckling as I'm talking, and if she watches this, she'll know who I'm talking about because she does a good job, loves her store, does not like my recorder. But I think there's a lot of value in that individual being on the commercials for their business. And so it's not that she doesn't enjoy her business, but she doesn't. She's always, Simon, you're here with that stupid recorder again. So I'll say, just smile, read it, and you'll sound, and always does a great job, but has to kind of get yourself in that frame of mind.
Right.
That goes back to even the speaking clearly. You have to put yourself in that frame of mind, but you're saying some of that pre-coaching absolutely can be of value.
Okay.
And if she's not smiling or it sounds gruff, I can say that because I've asked her to smile. Now, come on. I'll call her Samantha. It's not Samantha. Come on, Samantha. You can do
So
better.
I guess I see a potential glitch with that. And the glitch that I see is if you make somebody smile they look like they're grimacing. But
Yeah.
if you tell them, smile with your eyes, does that come across more natural?
Yeah, maybe. It's especially, I would especially say if you're tying video into it, but
Okay.
you know, we can hear that sound. It's
Hi, we're so happy to see you, you know, and you're like,
yeah,
are you really?
right, and you don't want to overdo it either, like
Right,
you
yeah,
said
right.
earlier in the communication shows where your tone can be too soft and slow, or it can be too in your face too. You
Well,
know,
yeah, right.
which is it?
The drill
Well,
sergeant.
neither. Or yeah, then there's the drill.
Get over here, soldier!
Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot to it, but
A lot. I don't think we barely scraped the surface of this, but it's a,
and I'm far from an expert, but you just kind of those are all pieces to it, and part of it we know it, and then part of it is applying it, and therefore you're learning
can I
it
say
as you
something to you about the expert?
go. Oh, I
thing?
know. I love this line with it.
What's that?
I said I always love this line. It's a good line.
What line is that?
Your expert line.
Oh, no, I don't know what even that line is. Imagine,
Always a beginner.
well, that, for sure. Imagine that you're talking to Babe Ruth,
Yep.
and it's 80 years ago or whatever, right? So he's like near his prime. And you say to him, Babe, you're the most extraordinary hitter that ever lived.
Sure.
So what I want you to do is explain to the audience the physics of hitting a baseball.
Right. Probably the look you'd get. Yeah. Well, you swing and hit.
Boom!
Yeah,
right?
boom.
And it's like, well, yeah, but what about, you know, the angle of, and the, he's like, what cage did he come out
Yeah,
of, right?
right.
So you might be an expert, but not have scientific nomenclature.
Sure.
But
Sure.
still be able to approach it.
Right.
And then that beginning thing, that's true as
Yeah.
well. So I think there's functional expertise.
There you go. I like it. Functional expertise. That's a good phrase.
Yeah. I guess I'm done. I don't know what else you would like to cover with that.
I think we've got it.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to our show today. No pun intended.
Yes.
Maybe it was intended. I don't know. Until next time, we hope you have a great day. Of course, we always want you to subscribe. If you like the show, click the little notification button, and every time one pops up, it'll let you know, and share with a friend. As we've said it before, Mike, pass it forward. We're not paid for this. Pass it forward if you liked it.
No. And if you want to send a quarter, we'll put it in the cup. Take care.
Have a great day.